All right, it's been 2 weeks since that toxic train derailment in Ohio, as the embattled residents of East Palestine continue to wait for a federal government response. And it's no wonder why these residents are feeling slighted by a White House, which is usually, but not always, been quick to respond to disasters of this nature. President Biden traveled to Kentucky and Florida in the aftermath of tornadoes and Hurricane Ian. And in both cases, he arrived less than a week after the dust had settled. But more recently, he didn't pay a visit to Buffalo after that historic blizzard. And as we said, it's been 2 weeks and counting as we wait to hear whether he's going to pay a visit to Ohio. Joining us now is Victor Davis Hanson, senior fellow at the Hoover Institution and the author of The Dying Citizen. Always good to see you, Victor. Let me ask you this. I think about the disaster that happened in Ohio, the lack of government response. They're always so quick to rush. No Biden, no Pete Buttigieg, and all of the environmentalists that tell us and preach just about climate change don't seem to be talking about the damage that's being done to the air, the soil, the water. Why?
Well, I think I could answer that, Sean, with a hypothetical. If this happened in Malibu or Beverly Hills, you know that the reaction would be very different. On the same token, if it happened in South Central LA or Compton, the reaction would be very different. But this is one constituency that the left despises. So whether it's the clingers of Barack Obama or the irredeemables or deplorables of Hillary Clinton or the chumps or the dregs that Joe Biden has used of this constituency, or the FBI talking, the Peter Strzok people who smell up Walmart, there is impunity to ignore or to castigate or to stereotype the white working class, partly because of their association. They feel they voted for Donald Trump, but partly it's sort of a condescension that these were the losers of globalization. They lacked the taste and the refinement of the bicoastal elite. And that's really the subtext of this entire thing. If this was in Beverly Hills or this was in Martha's Vineyard, or even if this was in the inner city, that were a constituency of quote unquote marginalized people, they would have had FEMA out.
So,
they would have had
because because a lot of this area is Trump country, we're not seeing the same response from this federal government. That's what you think?
That's most of it. But also it's what Mark Milley did when he stereotyped the entire white working class by saying he was going to go look at the ranks and see to what degree they suffered from white rage, even though there was no evidence that that constituency was guilty of any prejudicial conduct other than they die at double their numbers in the general population in Iraq and Afghanistan. And the result of that was that we're looking at 30% short on recruitment from that constituency mostly. So what I'm getting at is partly it was political. They felt that there was no doubt, there was no upside in helping a Trump constituency. Partly it is they feel there's no downside because people neglect that constituency and they don't get the marginalized people, woke mob on their back. But we know what would have happened if had it been either very wealthy or a marginalized person, if I could use that circumlocution. They would have had tents. They would have had portable hotels. They would have had water. They would have had insurance investigators out. They would have had the whole thing. And it's really disgusting. Right. And I think now it's a matter of fear that if Pete Buttigieg is scared to go out there and address those people face to face and tell them that he did a good job. Now he's already blaming Donald Trump. That's their only fallback position. So it really is very important because it's a window onto these people's soul, because we're told that they really care about the environment. They only care about the environment when it fits particular political contours, not this one.
Exactly. No, you put the finger out. Because I'm always in admiration of your insight into these issues, I do want to ask you to weigh in on what Newsmax contributor Alan Dershowitz said in an article for Newsweek. He's bringing up this idea of Newsmax being deplatformed. He says, if AT&T can silence Newsmax, who's next? I want to, just from your perspective, in the last minute that I have, do you agree with him?
Yeah, I do. I think they feel that Newsmax is the premier hard conservative, if I could use that term, that's unambiguous in their conservatism. So if they can go after them, they can send a message that for other conservatives or, mainstream Fox News, they can say, don't drift into that territory because you know what happened to them. And, it's going to be very expensive to litigate, et cetera, et cetera. So they try to make an example. They did that with some of the January 6 people. They always try to focus on a particular. They did it with Scott Atlas on the
Right.
advice about COVID. They always pick a particular iconic person or organization,
Right.
and they inordinately and asymmetrically go after them as a warning to everybody else.
Right. Victor, always appreciate your insight, and as usual, you're right on every other subject. So thank you, and have a great weekend.
Thank you for having me.